Hi Jilly and other lovely viewers as well. Today I want to talk about S. I feel like S should stand for snow or siren, both of which are happening outside of the window behind you, but it doesn't. It doesn't even stand for spider monkey, of which there's a tiny monkey right here, which, I mean, would be enough to make you read any book, right? But I talked about this book a couple videos ago, and I told you that Lena talked about this book too, and it is super neat. Let's talk about it. Now, my initial reaction about this book is just amazement about the design. It's by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. J.J. Abrams, of course, is like Lost, and Doug Dorst I still don't know a lot about and haven't really heard about. I tried to look him up, but it was nothing I was actually familiar with. But the design of this book is really neat because it's supposed to look like an old-timey book, notice, called Ship of Theseus, that is written by V.M. Straka, which is a fictional writer that is a big part of this whole book. And then when you look inside, it has writing on the edges. So what's happening is, not only is this a book, like it's by a fictional author, hence the bunny quotes, but it's also a book that's being passed back and forth by two people, a guy and a gal, and so you kind of get their relationship, well, you really get their relationship in between those things, and you also get the plot of the actual book, and it becomes a whole big thing. So when I first brought up this book to you guys, it was over winter break, and I brought it up because I was like, this is going to take me my whole life to read. Because you have to read the writing that's in the margins, you have to read the actual book, which also has footnotes, because there's also a plot going on between the translator and the writer of the book, and the plot that's happening with the actual novel, and the plot that's happening with the people in the margins. Plus there's little artifacts to read, so I was like, this is going to take me a really long time. And I was afraid it was going to be confusing, but it is not confusing to read at all. It is very clear, the like underline parts that will cue you to go read the margins, so you kind of read along the book and then read the margins as you get to these. And then there's little artifacts, which this is like what initially made me want to get this book, because I was like, oh my god, there's little things inside the pages and it makes me happy. Let me show you. So every once in a while inside the book, the people that are writing in the margins will leave stuff for each other, like copies. I call these little artifacts. This is where you have to be kind of careful reading this book, and I'm being careful not to get them out of order, but for instance, like a little postcard and things like that. So it's really neat when you're flipping around and all of a sudden you find one of these little artifacts that's also relating to what's happening to the people in the margins. And here's where I'm going to start to talk about the actual plot of some things. So if you don't want any spoilers at all and just want to be super fresh when you start reading this, don't watch the rest of the video, but I'll try not to give anything, I mean, I'm not going to give anything away about like the ending or what happens to people, but from now on I will be talking about actual plot if you don't want to hear any of that. So I'd say the three main plots that are happening, that are kind of intertwined, there's the plot of the actual novel, which follows this guy, S, who has lost his memory and he's trying to figure out what's going on, and so there's elements with how did that happen to him. And then there's the plot between the girl and the guy in the margins. The girl goes to this school, and that's where she initially finds this book and starts writing back and forth to this guy who has graduated from the school and actually was a grad student, but things have happened to where he doesn't technically go there anymore. So they're writing back and forth to each other, and they start to get involved in the mystery that is what is happening between the writer of the novel and the person who translated the novel. And because there's a lot of suspicion and mystery involved around the actual author and the person that translates, and you start to figure out that there's clues in there. So the people in the margins kind of have their own little relationship, but they're also starting to get involved in this whole Straka mystery, and who was he, and what is the relationship between him and the translator, and then meanwhile you're following along this actual novel where you're trying to figure out who S is. Now, the part I was most worried about was the actual novel. I was afraid I was going to be bored, but since it's J.J. Abrams, it is that like really realistic sort of thing like Lost was, but with like little smidges of supernatural elements like Lost, to where you're like, ooh, this isn't quite as real as reality, but it's not you know, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, fantasy just sort of stuff, but it's got those little tiny supernatural elements that I think that JJ just kind of puts into everything that he does. Thank you, JJ Abrams, because it really made the novel itself really interesting to me too. Overall, I really highly recommend this book because it sucks you in and it keeps you intrigued the whole time you're reading it. Like, you really care about the people in the margins and you start to like, ooh, what's happening with them? And you get really into the mystery of the whole VM Straka thing. And like I said, I really, really enjoyed the plot of the novel too. And I was worried. Now, I was a little worried about, was JJ going to wrap it up in the end? But I think if you read this all the way through, you will like the whole thing and you will even like the ending. I won't tell you the ending, but I think you will like it the whole way through. So I highly recommend. I don't think you could even get this on Kindle because it's got the little artifacts and things that come with it, but I'm not particularly sure. But it would be worth buying this one, like, physical copy, because it's like a massive, nice book and it has all those little artifacts in it, and the different colors of the writing in the margin. So it'd be worth getting a physical copy of this if you're not a person who buys every single book physical copy. Like, I buy a lot of Kindle books and then I buy really nice ones or favorite authors on my Kindle. So let me know if you have read this, and I highly recommend. It's just such a different reading experience, so I recommend to buy it if you have the means. And Jilly and other lovely viewers as well, I will talk to you later.